Hello, everyone, and welcome to My Hobby Home. My name is Cathy. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're doing something a little bit different than quilting today. We are doing a pillowcase dress. I told y'all I was going to get to it and get it done, and today is the day. What we are going to do, we start out with a size chart here. I will have all of this linked down in the description for you to access it because it is a free pattern, but it is not my pattern, so I cannot tell you sizes to cut and all that, but it is out there. So if you're wanting it, I will have it linked down in the description. So I have my pattern here. And it's only 3 pages. You have to print the size chart, I believe, separate. I don't recall. I printed this so long ago, I do not recall. You will cut 2 pieces of fabric, the same size. And I just took some yardage and cut it. Now, they're so close in size that I'm going to have to measure it to find out which side is the long side and which side is the short side. But this is the dress body, and this is the band that goes around the bottom, and you cut 2 of these as well. Now, the seams, you do need to have finished seams on the inside of the dress. I am going to do a French seam, and I'll tell you how that's done. I may not be able to turn you all the way down on the table so you can see, but I will tell you exactly how I do it. So what I need to do is the first thing I'm going to do after I have everything cut, I need to put my armholes in it. And you will do this on both pieces of fabric. Okay, so my next step is I have to cut my armholes, and you do that on the long side. So this is the length, and this is the width. So I'm making sure my fabrics are good together. Now, both of my pieces, I don't have to do it on both because I'm cutting them both at the same time. But I will need to trace this off. So how I will have to do this is measure my fabric out here. Now, we will round the holes off. Right now, what I'm doing is just marking how much I need to, how far in I need to go and how long the armhole is. Okay, so that is one side of the dress done. Now that I have that marked, my instructions tell me to round the corners off, or round off the armhole. Okay, so now I'm going to round my curves here, and all I'm doing is lining up my can on the side mark and the bottom mark, and I'm just going to round that off. You will have a J. So what we are doing from here, I'm not even marking this side. I am taking these 2 pieces of fabric, folding them in to one another, making sure they are lined up even. And I'm not blowing my pattern off the table here because everything should line up. Yep, all my lines line up. Now I will get my scissors. I am going to start up at the top and slowly cut my way down. And this will also let you know where you're at on your fabrics, so you know which is the top, which is the bottom. So we are done with this, and I'm actually not getting rid of this because I can use some of this fabric. My plan is, I know I don't really talk about, well, I do talk about a lot of plans, but anything I make for my granddaughter, like a dress, I will keep remnants of that fabric because in the future, and I'll cut pieces out. I want to make her a quilt when she graduates high school with fabric from all the dresses or outfits I made her growing up. Now, I know when she gets older, she's not going to want anything that Gigi has made her, but I'll still have this because I remember my grandmother, she made quilts out of clothes and everything else. So I want to be able to do something like that as well. Now, my next step, I do need to put my table back on. I take that off when I have to cut anything because, like I said, I don't have a lot of room right here. And we are pulling up our fabric here. So let's read our instructions. Our next step is to sew the band onto the fabrics, the dress, right sides facing together. We are just going to sew this and keep it lined up. Now, according to the instructions, everything is cut on a 1/2 inch. I don't know how to do a 1/2 inch, I don't think. I don't even know where the 1/2 inch is. I'm going to say the edge of my feed dogs there. Let me just make sure. I'm making sure, guys, making sure. All seam allowances are 1/2 inch unless otherwise noted. So that is correct. So I am just saying that this 1/2 inch, which I could pull out my little seam guide and make sure it's at a 1/2 inch, but I think this will be okay. I mean, it's not going to hurt if it's not, because her daddy's short, her mama's short, I'm short, her Shugs is short. We all short, so she's not really on the tall side. I mean, I'm 5'3". Her daddy's just a little bit taller than that, and her mama's about my height, maybe a little shorter. So if the dress is a little bit shorter than what it calls for her age, it's going to be okay. And she can always wear it like a shirt with a, pair of shorts under it, a little sun top. Okay, that is the first piece. I'm going to lay it over here so I can press it when I need to. And grab the other piece. We're going to do right sides together on this one as well. I imagine what I need to do is trim the, I'm actually hoping I didn't cut this wrong, because it says the length. No, I think I'm right. I think I'm doing it right. But I am going to have to get with my son to see my little granddaughter. I have not seen her in so long. And I am missing that little girl some kind of bad. But this is one of the things I dreamed about doing, becoming a grandma, was making my grandbaby clothes. Little boys are harder to make clothes for, unless it's just like a pair of shorts or something like that, or a tank top. But little boys are harder to make clothes for, definitely. For me, they are anyway. I'm hoping this has a rolled up seam, um, like a fold over seam where it folds over the hem. But right now, we're just getting that on. We now have our bands sewn to the bottom of the dress, and it is pressed towards the band. So now what we need to do is put the front and back together, and we're doing a French seam. So we're putting the wrong sides of the fabric together. I am going to pin this at the armhole and then pin it at the base. But I'm going to make sure that our seams line up right here. And what I'll do is just make sure that, now remember, we're doing this at a 1/2 inch, but what I'll make sure is that I keep it held together all the way down to make sure everything stays even. So once I have that under there, all I have to do is slide my fabric. I put my finger in between the two pieces of fabric there, and I just keep sliding it here. Dreams coming true, guys. Dreams coming true here. I'm so excited about making my little grandbaby this dress. Now, back in the 90s, these dresses were actually made out of pillowcases. Now, I don't know about you, but now pillowcases are a little bit on the pricey side. Now, I did catch some not too long ago at Walmart for a double set of pillowcases, was like $5. Okay, I'm going to do the other side as well before doing the French seam on this side, because, you know, if I could do both sides at the same time, why not? We're going to do the same thing though. We're going to turn over to this side, pin this armhole together. I'm probably not doing a good job of showing y'all what I'm doing, and I'm so sorry. But if I get you any closer, you can't see my table at all. But okay, so we are going to get this under the needle here. Don't forget, everything is at that 1/2 inch. Now, when I sew this side, I'm not able to pull the fabric from the other side, so I have to finagle it just a little bit. But that's why when you're doing this, you try to make sure all your fabrics are lined up, and a lot of times they'll kind of stay together on their own. Now, just like in quilting, sometimes you have one fabric that's a little longer than the other, and you have to make it work. Well, this has that. I'm having to make it work. And once I get done sewing this, I will show you how we do a French seam. The instructions are actually also in the directions that you'll print out if you want to make one of these. It does tell you, it suggested it, and I already know how to do a French seam, so that's a good thing. Okay, now that I have it sewn all the way on both sides, I'm going to take my scissors and cut this down to about 1/8 of an inch. Well, actually, I think what I'm going to do is pull out my rotary cutter. I've got my ribbon and my bias tape there. I think I'm going to just do it quick. Lay my dress out here. Think this may be a little too long for my baby girl. But what I'm going to do is, I know my stitch line is 1/2 inch. So I'm finding my stitch line. Actually, it's not quite 1/2 inch. But that's probably better, because I think I actually sewed this the wrong direction. I think the long edge is supposed to go here, and the short edge is here, because I just added a longer bit. But it'll be okay. We will work it out. Got to find my line and stay on my line all the way across, and then move up, because I'm cutting on that 1/8 of an inch. You just don't want to cut on your stitch line. I have both sides of the dress now trimmed down. So what we need to do now is turn our dress inside out. And we are going to roll that seam. Now, we did have to press it also, but we're going to roll that seam or the fabric, and I'll show you here. This is the seam right here. I'm going to roll that as best I can to that seam line to get that seam to the edge. I'm going to press mine. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I like doing that to make it a better line. So I'll be right back as soon as I have this pressed. And just like that, we have that seam pressed. I like to press it. The directions do not say to do that. But now what you're going to do is sew this at 1/4 of an inch. And it should catch that seam that you just sewed and pressed. And this will make us have a nice seam on the inside of the dress and keep you from having, I do know you can do zigzag on it, or you can, if you don't have a serger. I don't have a serger. I have been wanting to get one, but I just haven't broke down and got one or even tested one out. But while I was pressing this, I'm sitting here thinking, this really is the wrong direction. I can tell it is. But I'm hoping that it'll still work. It'll just be a long dress for her. I'm just hoping it's not too small going across the body part. Now we're going to just take this off and do the next side. Guys, it is this easy. It is this simple to do this. I think this is a seam that someone had asked me to do once before. And I've never gotten around to it because you don't use a French seam in quilting. You do a lot in garment sewing. I think it's a French seam that somebody had requested, and it's real easy to do. It's just a matter of sewing the wrong sides together first, trimming it down to 1/8 of an inch, and then turning your garment inside out, turning it right side out, or rather inside out. Inside out. You sew the garment the right way, the insides together, and then when you flip it, that actually conceals that seam. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just stitching that seam in. Y'all will probably notice I keep taking my table off, but that's because I have to do things on. I have to press and I have to do things. Next thing we are doing is pressing this 1/2 of an inch in. So if you have a seamstress measure, you can use that. I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm going to pull this over here, press this out, and be right back. Okay, now that I have that pressed under right there, I did more than 1/2 an inch. And my reasoning for that is because this is going to be a long dress on my grandbaby. And I don't want it to be that long. So what I am doing is trying to adjust to what we have. So what we're doing is rolling the hem up here. This is going to cover this other seam as well. And you are going to pin this. Probably what I need to do is turn it to the side so I can lay the seam down. I am matching up my seams. So I'm just going to go around the garment, matching my fold with the seam line and pinning it. So that means I'm having to get the dress where I can see my seam line, and I'm just going to go around and be pinning it. Now, the instructions do tell you to make sure to use like a walking foot or a dual feed control foot. That's what the Bernina has. And it's just to make sure your fabric doesn't move, that it stays together. I pin everything a lot just to make sure as well. It's easier for me to see it when I have it turned this way. I just want to make sure it lines up, trying to make sure that bend lines right up with that seam line, because what I'm going to do is stitch right on the edge of that and catch it on that seam line. And the way the instructions read, it says stitch it on the right side. I'm going to stitch it on the bottom side, the underneath, just because I do not want to be hitting my pins. And I may even press this before I even sew it, just to make sure. And guys, these pins are heat safe. They're the Wonder pins. I do have a link for them down in the description. If you're interested in getting anything like that, I do have a link for you to see, to check them out if you want to. Okay, I have this all pinned. So what I am going to do, notice I'm not putting my table back on. Just going to slip right here, checking my placement there. Thinking it's not going to line up exactly. Okay, so now what we are going to do is just put our needle down. I do have a laser light on my machine, so I can, position my needle like right on the edge of that. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying not to pin myself as well, because that always happens to me. And I've noticed something when I was folding my seams up. For some reason, I've never had this happen before. Only after my machine has been serviced has this happened. I did not get a stitch sample when I picked my machine up, so I don't know what it was doing when I picked it up. But I have noticed it is skipping stitches, almost like it's not catching a stitch here and there. It's not a lot, but one is too many. So if anybody has a Bernina and has had that happen, please tell me what to do to fix it, because it wasn't doing that before I had it serviced, and now it is doing it. And guys, I really do not care if I can see the seam line in this. That does not bother me. If somebody's sitting there inspecting the seam line at the bottom of my granddaughter's dress, we got a bigger problem than seeing a seam. I am almost all the way around the dress, guys. And we've been sewing probably about 45 minutes. Probably mostly trying to decipher the instructions, because like I said, I've never made one out of yardage. I have actually made one out of a pillowcase, but never yardage. And it is a little different because you're coming with two sides already finished. I am going to press this, and then we will start working on the armholes. Okay, so now I have the little band added on, and I even pressed out the side seams here. Let me get them pulled open here. So now our next thing that we're doing is the armholes. I've got my double fold bias tape here, and what we are going to do is unfold it. And I think it said exactly how much to cut off of that, but let me read it. It does not give us an exact, but the instructions say to unfold your double fold bias tape and put the raw edge against the raw edges and pin. So I am going to start at the top on the front or the back. It doesn't matter which. And we are just going to go around and pin. I'm going to turn this towards me so it's easier for me to see so I can pin it. I know y'all like seeing it too, but I'm so sorry. I can't see it if I have it turned towards you guys. And I don't have enough cameras to put one behind me and face you down where you can see it. Now, these double fold bias tapes, they don't like me because they don't want me unfolding them. And it called for, I don't know what size it called for, but I know the ribbon, I did not get the right size. It called for a 1/2 inch ribbon. I got 3/8. They did not have 1/2 inch ribbon. I'm sure that's not going to hurt anybody though. Okay, I have this first armhole done. Got it pinned in. I am going to cut this double fold bias tape, even with the fabric there. And we are going to sew this on. And let me check to see how it says, because it may be a 1/2 inch again. It does not say, it just says stitch in place, but we know we cannot. I'm going to do it at 1/4 inch, and that's only because the bias tape, if you go much more than 1/4 inch, you are sewing into the fold. The final stitch can be done at a different width. It could be done at that 1/2 inch. Now I'm holding the fabrics in place so it doesn't, so it stays even. We're stitching this to the raw edge. Now that we have the first edge folded over, what we want to do is, it's a double fold, so we can leave that fold there and just roll the fold over. It goes perfectly around it. Now you do want to make sure, I always pin just to be on the safe side, because now that I only sewed that one piece of that double fold, there's no seam to be seen. So now I can go in and sew like 1/8 inch from the outside. Now I don't even have to pin. I could honestly, let me try it without pinning to see if I can get it to roll under there the way it should. We're going to do this. I'm not doing this at, I'm doing this at like 1/8 inch from the edge. And I just realized what I did. I don't need to be sewing it from the bottom. I need to be sewing it from the top or the back side. I need to be sewing it from the front side. Because actually I should have sewn the bias tape to the back side first, but I didn't. But it will be okay. Because the good thing about sewing bias tape is you can feel where it's at. Just hold it in your hand as you're sewing. Keep it on a line and keep it flat, and it will catch everything that you need it to catch. Now see, as I'm going around these curves though, I'm making sure to pull my fabric out of the way as to not catch it. And I'm pretty certain I need a new needle right now because I did hit a pin just a moment ago. And I'm going to change the pin out before I go to the next side and do the next armhole. Okay, so now I have that one armhole done. Everything looks good. What I'm going to do now is change out my bobbin and my needle, and I'll be right back. And now we're starting back up with a fresh needle and a fresh bobbin, and I'm going to start this on the underside or the inside this time, how I'm supposed to, instead of on the wrong side. So I am going to just get this pinned. And here we go with our second armhole. Let's try not to hit any pins this time. Now we're making sure we catch that seam in the same direction it's going at the base of the dress, at the bottom hem of the dress. And guys, I can tell in my camera, I look very washed out. Normally, y'all see me with at least mascara and some lipstick on. And I got caught in the rain going to my eye doctor after work today. Y'all probably noticed I've got my new glasses on again. They had to put some different lenses in my glasses because the ones I had just were not working for me. And they called me and told me that they were ready. So I was like, I need to go pick them up because I only have so long after I order my glasses before it starts costing me money if something isn't right. So I'm like, I want to get as much time in my glasses actually before this coming Friday in case something wasn't right. Okay, so we finished sewing that. I've got to cut this excess off. And I know somebody's probably thinking, oh no, how about folding it over, finishing the edge? That gets caught in the casing for your ribbon. So, guys, I have a lot of this left. So I am going to roll it back up because I know I have another dress that I'm going to be making that can use this double fold tape. So what I'm doing is just wrapping this around, and I'm going to put a quilt pin in it, which is a magic pin as well, but it holds that tape in place. So now we're going to roll this back over to the front, and we are going to attach that. And now that I did it right, it'll work a lot better. Now we have our armholes done. Our next step is we will be doing the casing of the dress. This is the front. We will fold it down 1/4 of an inch and press, and then 3/4 of an inch and press again, and then we will stitch it. So here I have mine pressed, and we're going to stitch it closest to that fold line, which I'm going to do it at about 1/8 of an inch. I could do it closer than that, but I think that 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch will be fine because that ribbon I have is not a full 1/2 inch. So the 8 will be fine. And guys, I know you probably can't see what I'm doing because I did have to cut my machine light back on. I don't have enough light, even with the little light that I was using to see what I was doing here. Now we are working on our second side, the front or the back. There's no front or back. Now, I believe we do have to cut our ribbon to a specific size. So we have our casings on the front and the back done. It's real cute here. I may need to go press this again to press the seam flat. And now we are going to put our ribbon in. It calls for 2 yards of ribbon. So I need to pull out 2 yards of ribbon. And of course, I would knock this off on the ground. So there's 2 yards right there. I'll just let it go to the ground. Now, what I am going to do is feed this through with my purple thing. And I will show you how I'm going to do that. Because you're going to feed it all the way through from one side to the other. So what we're going to do is start on one side. You could use either end of your purple thing, but you're going to put your front casing and your back casing on your purple thing. I think that's actually what this thing is called. It's called the purple thing. But you see how I have it all the way. Now, what I am going to do is lace let's start down here in the bottom and go to the top. And then I'm going back through the bottom. You don't have to do it like this. There's actually instructions on how to do it. I just pull it through both of them. I pull it through that bottom one twice, so I know it's not going to come loose. And what I do is just start working it across that. Once you get it going, it's not that hard to do. My problem is getting it going. So we got it through that one, and here we go. We got it through this one. You just take your ribbon off your purple thing. I'm going to put my shiny sides towards the outside. I don't know if it's straight or not, but you do want it to be kind of centered there. Now, what I'm going to do is only stitch it to the back side. I'm just going to put a couple stitches in there. And how I'm doing this is I'm making sure the back one, I believe, is the one that I want longest. But I will have to put a couple stitches in here in the center of the back. So when it is tightened, it can be tightened through the front. And it can be tightened through right here. And when we tighten it through the front, we can tighten it in the back as well. This is going to be a sleeve right here. And this is going to be a sleeve right here. I personally prefer to have the two separate ties. But this pattern shows doing the one tie. And guys, this is our little pillowcase dress that we have made. I made this for a 24-month. So it is probably a little bit bigger. But isn't this adorable? I think my grandbaby's going to look so cute in it. And I may tell her mama to cut this other string over here and tie it on both sides. Just whatever works best. Guys, this took me 2 hours to do, but I did have to replace a needle and the bobbin in my machine, so that took a little time. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you like this little sew along tutorial, please give me a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. I do try to respond to each and every comment personally. And as always, until I see you again, I hope you have a very blessed day. Bye, guys.